Omonoba Nedu Ukwakolopolo, Ewai II, Oba of Benin, stepped out majestically with loud crowd to perform the Sultan rites of his late mother, Queen Mother Ioba Omoni Ikoyeme, Ioba Ewai II, who departed this world 49 years ago. Isoton is a traditional rite of the procession in memory of the departed person's spirit in Benin Kingdom. It is usually heralded by public display of the departed person's influence during their sojourn on earth. The display of a human effigy symbolizing the departed royal matriarch was preceded by the Oba of Benin, who led the procession from his palace to the Immortal Shrine at King Square in Benin City, where he offered prayers for the repose of the soul of the Queen Mother, Ioba Ewai II. Thereafter, the priest assigned to the Immortal Shrine offered Oba Ewai II items for Isoton on behalf of his family. However, chalk, known as Uri, represented a mixture from royal fans after ancestral spirits were invoked to bear witness and announce his arrival. On his way home, Oba Ewai paid tributes at various pilgrimage sites, including Queen Idia Tomb, the Side Oba Market, where a cheerful crowd of traders abandoned their wares to catch a glimpse of the royal personage and join in the celebration.
TV, certainly the best.
The Ugewe is the final ceremony of the series of festivals. It is one of peace and lightheartedness, following the more solemn of the ritual year. Ugewe is the festival of the Ewe leaves, a symbol of good luck and joy. It is the most popular of all that heralds the dawn of a Benin New Year, new vow, newness of life and freshness of life, and a new hope for the future. In the evening, the Ewe leaves are presented to the Oba of Benin in grand style in a colorful ceremony. The Ihogbe Society, amidst singing and dancing, bring the sacred leaves that symbolize good luck, blessings, peace, and prosperity. Each of the senior members of the Ihogbe proceeds to give the sacred leaves directly to the Oba of Benin, and others put theirs at his feet.
wae noriaba osanoroaba umadagemo agmoyenia woge wae
ITV, certainly the best. ITV, certainly the best. Thank you for joining us today on the program Woman to Woman. I'm Adesu Walsawage. Today on Woman to Woman, I want to talk about something that can be described as sweet and bitter, sweet and sour, and that is pregnancy. In some areas or in some climate or in some homes, when you hear the news of pregnancy, it is usually a thing of joy. Everybody will be so happy, particularly for newlyweds, for those who have been expecting, for those who have been waiting upon the Lord for the fruit of the womb. And once you get that news, you get this feeling of fulfillment. The men are happy. They pop their muzzles. Yes, my wife is pregnant. We're going to have a baby. But it becomes sour when that pregnancy is unwanted. It becomes sour when that pregnancy is an accidental one that the girl is not prepared for, and even the young boy involved. And this is usually the case among teenagers. So today we want to look at the sweet and sour side of pregnancy, teenage pregnancy. How rampant, how huge, how devastating, how socially demoralizing, economically draining, and of course health-wise, of teenage pregnancy. And with the trend of things going on in our society today, I don't know how we are going to cope it, because it is on the increase. And many of these children know what they can do to make sure that pregnancy disappears. But the consequences of that action is usually very huge. So thank God we have a teen coach in the house and a PR practitioner. We also have a nurse and a counselor in the house. So join me as I make welcome Favor Iniyomoege, who is a nurse, a pastor, a midwife, and a counselor. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
And also Dorcas Onoge, who is a PR practitioner, and of course a teen coach. Hello. We're all looking blue. Now, wow. All right, that's fantastic. So, ladies, in no particular order, talk to me on, let me feel your pulse on what you think about teenage pregnancy. So, Dorcas, let me feel your pulse. Let me feel your pulse on teenage pregnancy before we go into everything that we need to do today. Because you talk to teens, you're a teen coach, so.
Thank you very much. First of all, I will start with people I really know cause pregnancy when they were teenagers. Okay, first of all, before we go ahead, let me say teenage pregnancy is like a cancer that destroys the future of young girls.
Okay.
when a child who has ambition to go to school, who has ambition to be a professional in any field of endeavor, and they are trying to put themselves together, and these unwanted pregnancies pop in. I've come to discover that a lot of people, that pregnancy is like cancer that eats them up. You just see them go from 100 to 0, even -1, -2, just like that, and
that bad.
End up not becoming who they want to become in life, and that they will live their life in regrets. All the days of their life, they will always be regretting their action and everything. So it eats them up, and you see them living the life they don't want to live, living the life they don't plan for, living the life they don't want to. They didn't really a vision for themselves because of unwanted pregnancy.
Okay. Favor, what do you think about teenage pregnancy?
Teenage pregnancy actually is the pregnancy that occurs in young women, young ladies, young girls between the ages of 13 and 19 years. And the challenge with this kind of pregnancy is the fact that they are usually unwanted pregnancy.
Okay.
Pregnancy
let's hook it there and take a short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned to the program Woman to Woman, and we're talking about teenage pregnancy. It's very worrisome. A lot of women are very scared. Once your daughter gets to like 12, 13, 14, thereabout, women becomes very scared. And all of this happens sometimes as a result of incest. And most of the time, these young girls don't even want it. Peer pressure, and then could be that they were forced, rape. So we're going to look at this and see how we can help our young girls. Some women find it a taboo to talk to their daughters about sex. They don't want to discuss it. You know, instead they will tell you when a man hold your hand like this, no, we have passed that stage, please. We're in the jet age now. So, Favor, let me come to you now as a health practitioner. What are the immediate health risks of teenage mothers and their babies?
You know, teenage pregnancy comes with a lot of risk.
Okay.
First and foremost, that pregnancy is unwanted. We're going to be having risks to the mother, risks to the baby in utero, you know, the fetus in utero, unborn, and when you even give birth to the baby, we're going to still have some issues. So we're going to have some psychological risks. Medically, this patient is going to, this young lady having a unwanted pregnancy is going to come up with complications like severe anemia. Remember, she's pregnant. And because she's pregnant, they will hide this pregnancy. Will not be able to get the adequate, you know, nutrition that they need to help them cater for themselves and the baby they are carrying. So they end up having anemia, shortage of blood. Like we popularly say it. Okay, and then they can have other complications. They will not come for antenatal clinics. But they don't come to register.
It's a thing of shame.
Complications, they're afraid of stigma, they're afraid of, you know, so other issues comes, emotional issues like depression in pregnant can set in as they're pregnant. These people can come up with other conditions like pregnancy-induced hypertension. And then for the baby that they are carrying, they are likely to deliver these babies prematurely. And the babies are likely to be light for date babies, in that they will not have enough weight, normal birth weight for the normal baby in their gestational age. These babies can also come up with breast asphyxia. These people, they won't come to get medical care in a good facility, so they'll go there and deliver anywhere, and in the process, they can have issues. Obstructed labor can also come in, yes. This reproductive tract is not mature enough to go through the process of labor. Labor become obstructed. Other complications can come up, like postpartum hemorrhage. She delivers and then she starts bleeding, and in the process, God forbid, she loses her life. All right, and other complications, structural complications like vesicovaginal fistula and rectovaginal fistula, where she will be passing urine and feces coming out together via the vagina, you know, because there's already an opening, okay, between the vagina and the bladder, as the case may be, or the vagina and the anus, or the rectum, as the case may be. So, and these are not very, very palatable conditions at all that we want our young girls to go through.
Okay, I know you control a congregation. You're also a medical personnel. I want to know the outrage that you people do to sensitize our young girls. You know what I'm saying? This now, a lot of girls, a lot of teenagers, boys and girls are attending lectures now.
Yes.
There was this afternoon, I took my time. I was driving when I saw those kids. I now parked my car. I had to look at them. You know, they walk in groups. And when I saw this huge crowd of young boys and girls moving together, I was like, what's happening? So somebody now said, oh, there's a lecture around there. And these children were sent to school to study. But unfortunately, their parents don't know what they do. You know, they date themselves. Sometimes they don't even go to class. And other times when you see where they were, like this particular day, this particular girl, somewhere in this, you see, or local axes, she wore a tight, is it leopard skin now or just skin dress? It was a jumpsuit, but the whole back was open to the top of her butt, so to speak. I'm sure if she stretches, you will see her body. You know, the whole back was open, and this young girl was busy rubbing her back as they were working. And tell me, these people will not end up in the haze, so to speak. You know, with all of that, there's going to be plenty of unwanted pregnancies. It will happen. Except, of course, some parents just want to live in denial. It will happen. When your daughter dressed almost naked to attend just lectures, imagine what that girl will wear when eyes are not on her, when she's like independent. So talk to me, what kind of sensitization do you give?
A lot of sensitizations, they are going on. But the challenge that we have in our present society is, the more you try to talk to these young ones, the more we have oppositions here and there. When you are telling a young child or a young girl that this is how it is, we have plenty things that they are feeding on from social media that is counteracting the information, the positive information that they are getting from other sources. So I think our generation, we need help, sincerely. God, we need to help this new coming generation. The issue of misinformation is a very big problem that they have, where they believe that, oh, I beg, you can do it, nothing will happen to you. Oh, that person that it happens to is not sharp, the person does not have sense. I know in this dispensation, you cannot get pregnant, you don't mind them and all that. And they live in denial and come up with unwanted pregnancy. So we're into various, for example, about NGO where we go out, we sensitize people, you know, talk to young ones about, you know, their lives as young females, why they need to keep themselves, why abstinence still remain the best way, you know, to prevent unwanted pregnancies and sexual advances.
Dorcas, now, as a teen coach, how does teenage pregnancy affect the mother's education and future prospects? You were trying to talk about it, you talked about it briefly, but now talk to us in details. How does teenage pregnancy affect the young girl's education and then her prospects in life? The drawbacks, the setbacks, and all of it.
Teenage pregnancy, just like I said earlier, is like a cancer when they don't have the support of their parents. How do I mean? When your child gets pregnant and you know the disappointment from the parents, the father, the mother, the other siblings, aunties, uncles, neighbor, you know, everybody will be. In fact,
the community.
The communities as a whole will be tongue lashing that child. And that alone will demoralize the child and the pregnancy. It will make them to withdraw from society. There's this withdrawal. They will withdraw back. They will not have the courage to face their classmates anymore. They will be hiding away from their classmates. They will not have the courage to do things they really wish to do, because anyway, even somebody that doesn't know them, if they see them on the way looking at them, teenage pregnancy, you know, those small talks that comes out, you know, there's a way it affects these young people negatively. And now, for instance, after they have put to bed, you will see that most parents will say, now that you have chosen to get pregnant and you now decide to become a mother, you are now left alone to take your responsibility. And that is another huge problem that the challenge that the teenage mother faces, because they don't have the resources to take care of themselves and the baby. I'm not talking of going further for education. I've seen a young girl that was very, very intelligent in her days that got pregnant while she was in SS1. She got pregnant, a lot of things, got pregnant for a conductor, she put to bed and did everything, and she decided to go back to school. I learned that she went back to school, but what happened? The father said that he can no longer sponsor her, and that's how the young girl ended up not going to school. Today, if you see her and her classmates, she looks like the mother of her classmates, that they were together because she was abandoned. Whereas the other cases where, had it been she have this necessary support that she need, that thing would have made her to be able to overcome it. So when we neglect our children, I'm not supporting it. It's not something that I wish for my child. It's not something that I wish for anybody's child at all, because I believe everything is stage by stage. You get to a maturity or for something, then you go for it. You mature to a point and you're able to handle some issues for yourself. So, but when it happened like this thing made them to draw back. The career they want to become, they want to go for, they cannot go for that anymore. And how does that one come out to be at the end of the day? The poverty they are trying to run away from, that's where they will find themselves. If I thought they decide, the child has grown, let me work, they no longer have the capacity, the necessary qualification to go for a higher paid job. Rather, they will go for the lowest paid job, and which will also make them to remain in that poverty state.
All right, you talked about family support. How is the family supposed to support such a child?
Yes.
Because having in mind that the mother is disappointed, the father is disappointed, some may even chase the girl out of the house.
Yes.
Chase her into the street.
Yes.
Go and meet the boy. She gets to the boy, the boy's parents will say, I did not send my son this. We are not responsible. She's like on her own. How is she supposed to get support now?
Now, if we look at it critically, we'll give an example of Bishop TDJ's daughter.
Okay.
She had her first child when she was 13 years old. But with the support of the father, the parents supported her. And today, she's a doctoral degree holder. She has a PhD in her field. Then now, when you don't support these children, they're already disoriented because of what has happened to them, and they don't know their left from their right anymore. They are confused because this one is children, giving birth to children. They are not matured enough to handle life situations. So they need the support of the mother, the father. Yes, in as much as you want to express your disappointment for your child to get pregnant as a teenager, you also have to put disappointment aside and support that child.
It has already happened.
It has already happened. You cannot throw the child and the water away because the child pulled. No, you have to separate them. If your child pull on his or her body, you have to clean them up. So you have every right to be angry. You have every right to want to chase them away, but have a second thought. Support them. It has happened. When the mother decided to take away that child from that girl child and say, look, I'm at your back. This thing you did is very wrong. I'm very disappointed in you, but I will not just allow you to just go like that. Let the mother take the child from the child. They are children, child. Take the child away from that your daughter and send her back to school. If everybody is tongue lashing her outside and the mother is giving her, look, girl, I'm behind you. You can still make it in life.
Are you sure that girl is not going to do it again?
She will not do it again.
She may.
She may, but most likely, I don't think higher percentage of them will not do it again.
Yeah. Okay, somebody once said that teenage pregnancies as a result of the failure of the parents, especially the mother. Please speak to this.
Yes,
I disagree. I disagree. You know, teenage pregnancy is not just a mother thing, it's a societal thing. It's beyond the mother. Peradventure, there's this mother that's very lovely to her children, and she tells them everything they need to know, she cares for them and all of that. And this child, out of ignorance, you know, or peer pressure out there, decide to, you know, try something out and she becomes pregnant. It's not the mother's fault. You can't blame the mother for that child's errors. But again, we as parents should take responsibility for our children, really, but not for the mothers to be blamed at the child. In short, I don't know, mothers that have females as children, there's this hypertension that we have at one side.
I already have.
In short,
Already have.
there's this hypertension, as in, yeah, I just imagine somebody coming to blame you for that. There's this palpitation somewhere in your heart, in as much as you are trying to help them, care for them. There's a way you pamper them and stylishly ask them certain questions at the end of the month in your period. This one, and then tomorrow, God forbid, something goes wrong and someone is blaming you. No, that's offensive.
You know, I was at a store trying to buy some things, and a father came in. I was lamenting. Now I don't know which one to buy. He came to buy sanitary towel for the daughter. I don't know which one to buy. He was like, he went to the counter, and I said, "Oh God, call your daughter. Let her tell you what you want." He said, "Madam, having female children is I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe it. I'm confused." You know? And I was like, I felt sorry for the father. The mother is having a Herculean task already, and now the father too is joining in the league. So, how do we protect our daughters from themselves, from peer pressure, from the society at large, Dorcas?
That's a use tax.
In 2 minutes, please.
It's a use tax because how do
we protect our girls?
It's difficult. It's difficult. You just have to do your best as mother. You just have to do your best as father. Make the necessary provision for them. Let them feel loved. Show them the reality of life. Because most times, we parents lie to our children. We want to paint things. Yes, we lie to them. We don't want to tell them the truth. Everything is okay. No, just let them know that if you go this way, this is how you may end up. If you go this way, if you want to become this, who do you want to become in life? What do you want to be in life? You just let them know. Talk with them. Make them. But if you follow this path, you won't get to this a place you are targeting to get to. So if you know this is where you want to get to, this is the right path to follow. If you decide to go another route, you will not get there. Let them know. How do I mean? For instance, a girl child that is in, let's say, 15, 16 years old, they should be out of primary school, want to go to university, let them read for their jam. Let them know that this is not the time for you to bow down to peer pressure. This is not time for you to want to raise shoulder with your peer.
But unfortunately, this is the period where all the hormones are running riot in the young girl's body.
You let them know that
does not know how to control it.
You don't have to let them know that it's a normal, it's a stage in life that they will overcome it. It's a stage in life, you've been there, you've overcome it. So it's not something that is new. They are not the first set of person to experience it. Okay. If others have gone through there and they overcome it, they too they can overcome it.
All right, Favor, let me fill your pulse.
I want to add, like she said, open communication between parents and their children is very important. Open and sincere communication. Don't lie. Say it the way it is. You know, gone are the days when you tell a child that if a boy touches you, you are going to get pregnant. Okay. That time has passed. Okay. So now tell them how it is. Honest communication with parents. Call a spade a spade. And then sex education. Okay. This is buttocks. This is vagina. Still, you know, it's better than giving it some funny names.
All right, ladies, you know, we cannot conclude today. So next week, we're coming to talk about strategies to avoid unwanted pregnancy and teenage pregnancies, and then the role of parents in safeguarding their children on this issue. I want to extract that promise from both of you now that we'll see next week. Hopefully. Talk about this. No, hopefully, definitely. All right, thank you. That's really nice. All right, time is not our friend, but we're going to come back next week with a part 2 because we need to teach you the strategies and, of course, the role of parents in all of this. Some parents are very violent when they are talking to their children about sex. You see a text message in your daughter's phone or in your son's phones, you let heaven go. And then you see a boy talking to your girl on the street or your girl talking to a boy on the street, there is problem. You will not handle the case well. And the girl or the boy will say, okay, you see that thing that you are pursuing me from? I don't do it. It's as simple as that, okay? So next week, yeah? All right, thank you, ladies, for finding time to be with us.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you guys again next week. Please stay with us so that you will learn the strategies, especially those parents who find it very difficult to discuss matters concerning sex with their children. Bye-bye.
ITV, certainly the best. certainly the best.
All right, now, very good morning to you. You're welcome to the program on our television, Independent TV. The program is this morning on ITV, your breakfast TV program. And we're reaching you from our three centers, from Benin, Abuja, and Lagos. My name is Evan Sunukugi. I'm not alone this morning. I have the beautiful Anwoluwa Stevenson. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Evans.
Well, I don't know what to say, but I think those at war, nations at war, they should begin to think about the humanitarian aspect of this whole crisis. I mean, innocent persons that didn't cause the war, they're just dying by the day.
Right. I mean, talking about the implications, it's not just the humanitarian part of it. We also have the energy sector part out of it. I mean, so many destructions, persons and countries who shouldn't even be involved, or who I haven't heard being involved in war and crisis, going through a lot at this period just because of the interconnectivity of a country to another country. It's quite beautiful to see how the world indeed is a global market and a global space. Talking about countries like Dubai, where we saw over the weekend with the disruptions in flight cancellations. I mean, tourism put on hold in Israel and Dubai and Qatar. I mean, it's a long conversation that has come to say, as of yesterday, Donald Trump instigated and insisted that this is going to go on. Initially, he said for a couple of days, couple of weeks, but it seems to us that it's going to even spiral for, you know, for a couple of months. And that's where the fear actually did start and is beginning to, you know, lay hold.
And we pray that it doesn't get to that time. I mean, for a whole month. I mean, today is about the fifth day of the war, and of course the casualties are increasing by the day. Now, some of the live reports that we have at the moment is that Israel hit Beirut and Tehran as Trump warns Iran of escalated strikes. That's one. Then, of course, we have the one that has to do with U.S. consulate in Dubai hit. Israel attacks Tehran. That's two. Then also, there's one that reached that Middle East crisis live. Says nearly 2,000 targets in Iran war, are currently dead. 2,000. You can imagine. I don't know. We're talking about the implication as it relates to the energy sector and all that. But let's talk about life first. We're talking about human lives now. Now, I was watching some videos, that has to do with this certain school in Iran. Students in their teens that knew nothing about the war, and of course, they just died like that. I think at the end of the day, some nations may have to be accused for war crimes, because this whole thing, it's worrisome to me. I don't know what more. It's so worrisome.
Yes. So Antonio Guterres over the weekend did have a meeting with other notable personalities where he highlighted the fact that this particular war going on shouldn't escalate more than what we are seeing currently. And there's a notable saying that when war happens, who are the persons that get affected more? Women and children. Yeah. Interestingly, during the course of the weekend and up until now, we've seen that some places that have been targeted, schools, airports, I mean, also the energy sector as well. Some countries with big, amazing shipment and countries who hold largeable share of the energy infrastructure in the world are currently affected. Countries like Qatar, Dubai, Kuwait, the list actually is endless, and this is where we are. And also here in Nigeria, we are actually feeling the impact as regards the energy sector, which is going to be our main conversation and our focal point this morning. Yeah,
and also in addition to that, now the petroleum sector is already hit, by what is going on in Israel and of course in Iran, US and all that. Now, yesterday, fuel has risen. The pump price of fuel has risen as almost 1,000 naira a liter. I know that is not funny. If you buy fuel and you pay almost 1,000 naira, as a matter of fact, while I was coming to work yesterday, I bought at 984 naira. So that's almost about 1,000 naira for 1 liter. So the big question is, can Nigerians afford to do all this? I mean, we didn't cause the war. We are innocent about it all. Of course. We didn't cause the war. And here comes the big question about the Dangote refinery. Now, a lot of persons begin to say the truth about Dangote. Now, is it that Dangote is unable to actually give the amount of fuel that Nigerians need now? Because from the look of things now, it shows that, okay, because we've been importing fuel, so right now there's no importation. As a matter of fact, there's no oil exploration in the Middle East and all that because of the crisis there. So it begs the question again, whether Dangote at this moment can really, take charge to give the amount of fuel that Nigerians need. Because what is going on is simple, that the amount of fuel in circulation in the country today is beginning to reduce. Dangote cannot live up to expectation. And of course, when you have the situation whereby you have plenty of demand, higher than availability of the product, then of course that's the price will go up, inflation will set in. So that's what we're experiencing in fuel today.
Of course. So me speaking from a layman perspective, the question should be why? Why are we experiencing the fuel hike as at this point? Because when did this crisis start? Over the weekend, and this is just Wednesday. I mean, it started yesterday, Tuesday, with the hike in price of fuel. And Dangote quickly added 100 naira from over 700 naira to 800 and something naira. And other marketers added theirs as well. That's why we're seeing the 935 naira, 950 naira per liter. But why and how did we get here? Now, I'll take you back to 2023 when the fuel subsidy was removed. Petrol pricing in Nigeria is currently market determined. Now, meaning that domestic price lists closely follow international crude prices movement. So when it goes up over there, with the Brent crude currently selling for $80 to $84 per barrel, I mean, it's going to also affect other places as well. Let's not also forget that the disrupting and shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is currently being affected. There is no movement then. Of course, that is why we're seeing things at this point. Now, my also fear and worry is, I hope this doesn't escalate, because what happens when this escalates from a couple of weeks up until months? We're going to face it, inflation, cost of living. And here in Nigeria, it seems to me that everything revolves around the fuel. Once the fuel goes up, the cost of living goes up. You see that transportation price would increase. I mean, different things actually would increase, and this is where we are. A lot of things to talk about this morning. Yeah, so sad that this is where we are. And the big question that we ask is, at this time, Nigerian authorities shouldn't just think about election, because I know that our politicians are so crazy about this year's election. I mean, we begin to see what's it called now? The election at the lower level, talking about the delegates, the election at the lower level. Yesterday we saw in the APC, whereby Tinubu was, emerged as the party chairman of the party again. So our politicians shouldn't just be concerned about the election. I mean, at this time, what nations of the world do when other things around, because like you said a while ago that we live in a global village. I mean, what some good nations of the world do is to begin to think out ways, survival ways and all that, and see how the citizens will not just suffer untold hardship for nothing. Well, this morning, like you rightly said, we're going to be talking about the implication of the Iran-Israel, U.S. war, and see the implication in Nigeria. We tend to have a global affairs analyst, somebody that knows his onions when it comes to the energy sector in the country and maybe outside the country, and he's going to be doing some great talks with us this morning. Anyway, like I said, the program this morning on ITV, you're welcome on board. So we will quickly take a short pause now, and we'll join the corporate trainer in Olata Nusahai, so that he leads us into the corporate world. Then after which we go to Lagos, where Miss Elena and Patricia are standing by for the major headlines on our major newspapers this morning. A very good morning.
Delighted to come your way this morning and add value to your day. We are still on our emotional intelligence series, driving workplace productivity with emotional intelligence. And the pillars or components of emotional intelligence include self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And last week we started zeroing on motivation. And that is also what we are going to continue on this morning. We'll be looking at a case scenario that is focused on a local government council in Nigeria. A local government council case scenario, using motivation and emotional intelligence component to drive employee engagement in a local government council in Nigeria. I will take that again. Using motivation, a component of emotional intelligence to drive employee engagement in a local government council in Nigeria. Now, as local government employees, you serve at the front line of governance in Nigeria. And serving on that front line of governance means that there is a strong probability that you will be encountering citizens that may be sounding very frustrated. Some of them may be very angry, and some of them may just come with attitude and disposition that can really get on your nerves. Now, in addition to that, you're also going to be you are often faced with limited resources as a local government employee. You are faced with bureaucratic delays. Sometimes political pressure is even there in the kind of Nigerian politically polarized environments. You see situations whereby, local government employees or public servants are always faced with political pressure. Now, in such a situation where you have, very frustrating citizens to deal with, then you also have issue of slim budget to deal with. You have issues of bureaucratic bottlenecks to deal with, and then also political pressure to deal with. Your source of engagements, your source of unalloyed commitment to your work is going to only come from inner motivation. It's going to come from intrinsic motivation. And within the context of emotional intelligence, motivation is not about salary. Motivation is not about allowances. Motivation is not about grade or promotion. Now, those are extrinsic. Those are external factors. Within the context of emotional intelligence, motivation is about intrinsic drive. It is that inner drive that pushes you to perform your duty with excellence even when no one is watching. Emotional intelligence motivation is a deep-seated passion to work for reasons that go beyond money or status. It's about your internal drive to achieve, it's about your internal drive to improve, and it's about your internal drive to serve. Emotional intelligence motivation is that fire that drives us beyond external rewards like promotions or allowances. And as an employee, emotional intelligence motivation means you setting standards for yourself, not because your supervisor or your leader is watching, not because your boss is watching, just is because you take pride in your work. This is very, very important. And for local government employees, we are going to be using this to have a conversation with you this morning, so that you can actually pull on that intrinsic motivation to be able to bring your A game to the table. And we are looking at a case scenario that focuses on the local government. Now, this is the case scenario, and it goes thus. In a local government council's Department of Environmental and Community Services, performance had dropped. Staff were coming late, complaint response times were slow, community dissatisfaction was increasing, meetings were quiet and unproductive. The surprising part, salaries were being paid. There were no major structural changes, yet engagement was low. Leadership realized something important. This was not a discipline problem. It was a motivation problem. Instead of using queries and threats, they chose a different approach. First, they reconnected employees to purpose. And this is what emotional intelligence motivation is all about. Being able to connect people to purpose, being able to connect work to purpose, being able to connect duty and tasks to purpose. And that was exactly what the leadership of this particular local government council in Nigeria did. It said first, they connected employees to purpose. A meeting was called, not to criticize, but to reflect. Staff were shown examples of communities affected by block drainage, flooding, and waste accumulation. Then they were shown areas where timely intervention had made a difference. The question asked was simple. Who is affected when we delay, and who benefits when we act quickly? Suddenly, files were no longer just files. They represented families, traders, school children, and elderly residents. When people see the human impact of their work, motivation begins to rise from within. The leadership of this particular local government council in Nigeria were able to connect their work to purpose. So just like I read on the case scenario, files were no longer just files. These files, they became families, they became traders, they became school children and elderly residents. And let me take this line on the case scenario again. It said, when people see the human impact of their work, motivation begins to rise from within. Second, leadership introduced a clear measurable goal. And this clear measurable goal included reduced complaint response time from 10 days to 5 within 3 months. There were weekly brief check-ins. Progress was shared openly. Responsibility was assigned clearly. Motivation increases when expectations are clear and progress is visible. Third, they introduced recognition. Not money, just acknowledgement. During monthly meetings, employees who demonstrated initiative or teamwork were publicly appreciated. A simple well done in front of colleagues transformed the employee. Now listen to this. Recognition validates effort, and validated effort fuels commitment. Very key. Fourth, management invited staff to contribute ideas for improvement. Employees suggested zonal accountability, faster communication channels, and better coordination between desk officers and field teams. When their suggestions were implemented, listen closely, when their suggestions were implemented, something powerful happened. Ownership increased. People commit more deeply to what they help build. Very important. Now, midway through the process, operational challenges arose. Logistics and resources constraints slowed progress. Instead of blaming staff, leadership reframed the situation. Let us focus on what we can control. Let us prioritize. Let us communicate better. By modeling resilience, management prevented discouragement. After 3 months, measurable improvements were recorded. Response times reduced significantly. Punctuality improved. Participation increased. Public complaints declined. What's changed? Not salary, not structure, not power. What's changed was internal drive, motivation. This case scenario teaches us that in public service, especially at the local government level, where we are closest to the grassroots, sustainable performance does not come from pressure alone. It comes from purpose. Remember I told you that emotional intelligence motivation is about connecting work to purpose. It's about connecting work to meaning. So this case scenario teaches us that in public service, especially at the local government level, where we are closest to the grassroots, sustainable performance does not come from pressure alone. It comes from purpose, clarity, recognition, ownership, and resilient leadership. Now, this is the closing statement. When leaders activate intrinsic motivation, engagement becomes natural, performance becomes consistent, and service delivery becomes impactful. Now, this is an amazing case scenario for us to glean lots of leadership lessons from. And don't forget this, if you want people to be well engaged, to your responsibility to just, especially in the public service, even across board in all industry, you need to ensure that you are able to tie their work, you are able to connect their work, their job to purpose. You are able to make them see a picture of how the work they are doing is adding value to humanity. And that will arouse intrinsic motivation from within them that will make them to be well engaged and have this unalloyed commitment to duty, to job, and to task. I'll be seeing you next week, Wednesday, and when I return, I will say remain amiable. Inuagata, no Sahai. Your day is so blessed. Thank you.
Thank you one more time. Thank you one more time. The program still this morning on ITV on Independent Television. Now, let's quickly say the papers this morning, and we're going to be taking the papers from Benin, where we have the first story on the Daily Independent. Well, before that, I have my co-anchor, Wisin. Wisin, a very good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Evans. You know, trying to...
I'm sure you're also feeling the impact or the implication of the U.S.-Iran war.
Well, but this time, I just be smiling because, come on,
smiling?
Crude oil, the price increase, you see exporting.
They should be smiling.
They should be smiling.
Who should be smiling?
If you're cashing in on it, you should be cashing in on it because right now, oil price has gone up.
Okay, what about...
And we're still giving it out.
What about Nigerians paying through their nose-drill? I mean, buying a liter for almost 1,000 naira, then you expect them to be smiling?
The thing is that we buying over 950 right now per liter. We're supposed to be like that in our country. Listen, we produce the oil. We're the one exporting. We regulate our price internally. You can give it off to them out there for XYZ price, but we have our own here. You refine it, you bring it. That's supposed to even affect us as a country, but people that are regulating it know what they are doing.
Anyway, we're going to be discussing about that on our discussion segment, you know, this morning in Benin. And so let's quickly say the papers this morning. And our first port of call is the Daily Independent, where we have Tinubu names tax expert Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. That's the top headline on the Daily Independent this morning. ADC asks federal government to stop selective justice against El-Rufai and Malami. Then also on the front page cover, you have federal government formalizes tax implementation for Nigeria's informal economy. And the rider to that is a target annual growth of 7% as pathway to $1 trillion economy. Then Nigeria's VAT hit 2.28 trillion naira in third quarter 2025, rises 10.66% quarter on quarter. That's you can find that story on page 29 of the Daily Independent this morning. Still on the Daily Independent, Lassa fever death toll hit 75 as fatality rate climbs to 23%. Still also on page 29 of the Daily Independent this morning. Tinubu directs immediate funding for maintenance of natural space assets on page 7. Then Medical Council suspends 3 doctors over death of Chimamanda Adichie's son on page 6 of the Daily Independent this morning. Federal government suspends pilgrimage to Israel amid Middle East crisis on page 7. Wisin, I was really expecting, you know, this because, I mean, I don't expect the Nigerian government to sacrifice its citizens, you know, at this time. I don't want to say the way Donald Trump is doing because I don't know. What do you make of a president that even said that casualties are going to be involved? American casualties are going to be involved. So it means that ab initio that Donald Trump was probably willing to sacrifice Americans, you know, for this whole bombardment, these airstrikes and all that.
Do you know what I feel about Donald Trump? He's the only president as it is right now that tells you what he wants to do. He does it. He's going to tell you what and what is going to entail. He never hid it from them. There will be casualties, he knows it. But he said, for the greater good. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon because they don't have this restraint.
Is this the greater people?
Look, see, despite the fact that the airspace in the Middle East right now has been locked because of the conflict, let's see what will be the end game. Everyone's looking at the end because from when he was addressing the UN, he said, look, for over 22 years, we've been talking to these people. Please don't enrich uranium. Don't look out for that, your massive dream of having a nuclear weapon. Because of what he believes the world know Iran stands for. From his own perspective. Now he said he did what other presidents never had the guts to do.
Iran is not the Korea. I mean, Korea has the same thing.
All right, now,
you know, Iran is not the only country that has a weapon of mass destruction.
For Korea, have you seen them shouting death to America, death to Israel, death to South Korea, death to this person? No. You don't have hard-line radicals in North Korea. Yes, they have their own issues. But you know that Kim Jong will not be just so crazy to start shooting ballistic missiles or nuclear weapon. They're not threatening to, like, you know, erase anyone from the map. You understand?
Anyway, the last story on the Daily Independence of this morning, U.S.-Israel attack on Iran. Petrol hits 960 naira per liter in Abuja and 935 naira in Lagos. Now, I said that a while ago. Yesterday, while on my way to work, I bought almost 1,000 naira, 984 naira for 1 liter. A liter of fuel for 1,000 naira. Can Nigerians afford it?
The thing is that when it was sold for 1,500, we're buying it.
Yeah,
this time around, this time around, it's like, you know, people understood that, look, this is not Nigerians and NPC fault or Dangote fault, it's what is happening globally. Yes, a war is raging right now. It must only have this blowback. If it gets better, definitely everything will come up. But this is the period supposed to be smiling to the bank. We export crude oil. The price has gone up. It could lead to a windfall. So what are you waiting for? You're cashing on it. Look, we're not supposed to even have this increment in fuel pump price in Nigeria because
that's
we
what
produce.
That's what we produce.
So what in the world is going on?
What's going on?
You should be asking the leaders. You should be asking the BCL.
Is it that we import crude oil?
Of course, we do import some percentage of crude oil.
When we're producing
independent marketers, yes, it's true. We import. But the thing is that since we have a Dangote refinery inside Nigeria, refining our own crude, the question now is, the price of crude oil was supposed to be going up or coming down? That's the question. So who are the ones regulating it? Or is Dangote importing crude?
Anyway, let's take the next paper from you now.
All right, listen, the next paper is the Daily Sun. On the Daily Sun, we have these headlines on page 27. FJ Hot's Israel pilgrimage caution Nigerians on demonstrations. We'll talk about the demonstrations later. Passengers, motorists groan as fans cashless policy causes traffic gridlock. There was said before fuel price rises, now around 37 naira per liter in Lagos, now around 75 naira in Abuja. In Benin here, as at yesterday night, I bought fuel yesterday night, it was sold for 915 naira per liter.
That's almost 1,000.
Almost 1,000, but people wondering, we are not importing crude oil. We have a refinery here in Nigeria working. How come the price is skyrocketing after all? Dangote refinery, according to what he told us, is not importing crude. So what is going on?
Anyway, we're going to be having a fuel chain, experts, a fuel chain expert now, on our discussion segment later on. And he's going to be explaining what's going on.
All right, now let's move on to some other headlines. More cash in economy pushes banks borrowing cost down after CBN rate cut. It's on page 2. Female tenants abduct 3 siblings in a Boeing 24 hours after parking in. On page 29. Epidemiological week 8, Lassa fever kills 3. NCDC confirms 28 infections. Disease ravages 18 states, 67 local government areas. This found on page 26. And power crisis. Okpebholo meets stakeholders, advocates broader engagement. This story is on page 25 of the Daily Sun.
Yeah. All right, so away from that now, the next port of call is on the Daily Trust. We'll have some stories too on other fronts. Our page cover this morning of the Daily Trust. On the front page cover, we have Gombe APC adopts President Tinubu as sole presidential candidates in 2027, and you can get that story to read on page 6 of the Daily Trust of this morning. Then the big bold headline, APC Congress line up behind Tinubu. And we saw that, a part of that in Edo State yesterday, whereby Jerry Tenebe emerged as the winner of the APC chairman in Edo State. And, politics, leave the politics for the politicians. All that we are concerned about is they give us the dividends of what they told us they will do. All right, so APC Congress is line up behind Tinubu. Big head story there on your front page cover this morning. Businesses bleed as a blackout persist. Yeah, that seems to be the major story in parts of Edo State, if not parts of the country, blackouts. And Governor Okpebholo met some protesters in Government House 2 days ago, and I really love the way he tried to address the issue. And he made some very revealing comments. The true owner of BEDC.
BEDC, Oshomo Paz, in protesting with the people saying enough is enough and all that, but We just need solution because businesses are suffering. They are bleeding really out because of this power outage. It's affecting businesses, affecting families, affecting economies negatively for that matter.
All right, so let's quickly say the next paper.
All right, now the next paper, it's The Guardian. On The Guardian newspaper, we have these headlines. Faulty design, vandalism, neglect, endangers $3.4 billion US rail overhaul. Okay, that is on page 6. Court adjourns El-Rufai's ₦1 billion rights suit against CPC. You can see that story on page 3. ADC warns FG against selective justice, backs El-Rufai Malami. This is on page 3 also. And FG rolls out 1% presumptive tax on informal sector, bans road blocks. The story is found on page 2. If you want to get the full details, just go to those pages. MDCN confirms negligence in death of Chimamanda Adichie's son. Okay, Middle East war lifts crude, pushes petrol near 1,000 naira as Nigeria counts gains and, of course, the risks. Tinubu reshuffles finance ministry, nominates Oyedele as Minister of State. Umahi Ohiri bickers over allegation as Huriwa demands prop. Yeah, Umahi is in the spotlight right now, not giving the woman's money because allegedly asking her out and all of that. Farmers header clashes claim 3,000 lives, displaced 300,000 in 5 years. This is on page 30. And FG approves AI robotic coding cybersecurity centers in 6 universities. Want to get the story? Page 4.
Yeah, let me quickly react to the parts where you said that Nigeria counts gains because of the increase in petroleum, in crude oil and all that. Well, I like what you said. I think that also addresses your concern that we ought to be making money, you know, from it.
Good money from this.
Yeah, because we're a producing nation.
Yeah,
good
we
one.
are.
But what our concerns are is that why the federal government, why Nigeria as a nation may be making money right now, what about the citizens that are paying through their nose to buy fuel for their daily use? You know, that's how would the federal government, you know, compensate? You know, okay, federal government is making money because of a barrel of crude oil is almost $100 as it stands now. But what about the Nigerian citizens? The average Nigerian citizens that have to pay almost 1,000 naira, you know, to buy just a liter of fuel. So how would the federal government compensate for all this?
Well, if you expect compensation, sorry to disappoint you, there'll be no compensation. That's the truth. I mean, all they can do is, okay, fine, we have crude oil windfall. Local government, there's your own share, state your own share, federal government your own share. That depends on your government to know how they're going to use that money. But say individually, some would just, okay, fine, security vote, pocket this, pocket that. But the question now is, does that mean that Dangote refinery is not enough to service the whole Nigeria? How come independent marketers are importing fuel? That is the reason behind this increment. And if they're going to choose to bring it down, to be like, you're trying to break our backs, we should have a level oil prices. Because if you talk about importation, you take a look at the prices. Others will refine, they'll bring it to Nigeria, you must only buy according to what they sell to you. Had the independent marketers had their own modular refineries, they can really hold them accountable, responsible for this hike in price. As an oil-producing nation, we ought not to having, or we ought not to be having this kind of an increment in fuel pump price. It doesn't make sense, but as it is right now, some major oil marketers, they are still importing fuel, hence the spike in oil pump price.
Anyway, time will tell whether our leaders will really live up to expectation and see how they can compensate Nigerians, you know, as the whole issue goes on. Well, I think that's all time will permit us to take now on the paper review segment so that we can begin to make preparations for our first discussion this morning. And we're going to be talking about, no doubt, about the U.S., Iran, U.S., Israel, Iran, you know, 3 nations at war, 2 nations against 1 nation. So we're going to be talking about that and talking about the implication. Already, no doubt, the whole world, you know, feeling the effect. That's the story here in Nigeria because the price of PMS, petrol, has gone up. All right, so we'll take a short pause now so that we'll bring our discussants into the talk show this morning. Please stay tuned. Time, the program still on your television this morning on ITV, and our guest on the program today is a fuel petrol supply expert, if you like now, and of course somebody that knows is onions when it comes to talking about the supply of fuel. That's the chain supply as it relates to gas and oil. We are talking about engineer Lukman Akoemuke, who is joining us virtually this morning from Berlin. Engineer, very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, my brother Evans. How are you?
Okay, we're fine. We're fine right here. Winston Omasho and I, we're fine.
Yeah.
Except the fact that we are not happy that the price of fuel is just going up against the expectation of Nigerians at this time. Now, that will make me to ask the first question. I mean, about this discussion of this morning. The crisis going on in the Middle East, as occasioned by the airstrikes. I mean, the U.S. and Israel, striking Iran and all that. Now, we've seen the implication. The humanitarian aspect of it is no doubt condemnable, and of course, other aspect of it is no doubt condemnable. But you tell us, do you think the world as one entity, do we need this kind of war this time? Let's start from there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, war is not a desirable outcome of any nation or individuals. But like we said, if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. The conflicts of national interests, especially geopolitical and economics, is what precipitates this kind of wars. For instance, the United States, for instance, has a lot of economic interest in the Middle East. So they, in order to secure the economic interest, which is centered around energy security in their own country, so they needed to make sure that they have a foothold in that place. But that economic interest of the United States is at conflict with the political interest of Iran. Now, when these conflicts come up between nations, the only way it is resolved is by the might of the nations. How strong are you militarily? So I think very strongly that instead of people looking at this war from the perspectives of religion or other primordial interests, it is better you look at it from the geopolitical and economic interest of the warring nations, which are all in conflict with one another. So I think we should look at it very critically, and perhaps maybe the United Nations, which I look at now as a mere bulldog, this war has actually exposed the inadequacies and ineffectiveness of the United Nations, a body we call a coordinating body of the national and international interests of all nations. So you can see that once the superpowers are involved in crisis, United Nations looks like a lame duck. So we are not in a position now to cry out to United Nations to rein in, to tell, oh, it's okay, Israel, it's okay, United States, oh, Iran, please do what they are asking you to do or don't do it. So it becomes quite problematic. So these are the things that we should be looking at in order to avoid future occurrences. But I actually said that the war is quite unfortunate. I'm not bothered about the casualties, if the casualties are the military men and the leaders. But I am bothered when innocent, unarmed civilians, especially children populations, are being attacked and their lives cut short. That is what hurts me on this. If Ayatollah Khomeini is brought down, his commanders are brought there, it's not my business. If Benjamin Netanyahu is brought down, Mossad commanders, Donald Trump, Pentagon, all these people are brought there, it's not my business. That is what they bargained for. But when women, children, populations are being attacked, either intentionally or by mistake, my heart gets broken. So these are the consequences of war that really break my heart. But when nations, powerful nations, are dragging to have footholds in certain geopolitical zones of the world in order to dominate logistically, economically, or for whatever reasons, this is always the outcome. And it was expected. This war, I've expected it even earlier than now, especially when immediately Donald Trump was brought in on the second term. Everybody knows his world views. Everybody knows his economic and political views around the world. Is that of United States dominance by military minds and all that. So immediately he came in, where some of us were already envisaging that this war between them and Iraq, the war between them and the Southern American countries like Venezuela and others, we expected that these things will happen. But the one that was properly managed is the tension between the United States and China. That one was managed from the perspective of economics. They didn't go military. So when the tariffs are increased by the Americans, the Chinese increased their own. They even went as far as even increasing tariffs for product for Europe, their allies. But the European Union were able to manage them, and they were able to come to a round table and discuss it. Chinese, they were also able to do that. But the parts of between US and Iran, which has to do with existential threats, which has to do with, we want to have a nuclear weapon so that we can also have the deterrence to take decisions so that you can't threaten us the way you cannot threaten China, the way you cannot threaten Russia. It becomes problematic because from the point of view of the United States, Iran is a rogue nation. They have the capacity to roll out their nuclear weapons within any little provocation. So they feel that they should not have, especially considering the dominance they will now have over the Gulf region, especially the GCC countries. So I think this war is expected, is inevitable, but our prayers and moral solutions to them is to minimize the casualties of the unarmed civilians, especially the women and the children populations.
Thank you so much, Engineer Lukman. If you take a look at the situation right now, you said it's purely economic war. But for what Trump and Israel is saying, it's all about security. Can you please advance within this thin line? Is it about security or purely economic?
No, I think it is purely economic and geopolitical dominance. And geopolitical dominance is actually meant to have economic advantage in certain zones. Don't forget that the world is divided into geopolitical zones based on energy, oil, gas. Now, the Gulf region, especially the GCC countries comprising of the Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, that is an area that is responsible for up to 30% of the world's energy supply chains on the basis of hydrocarbons. So without this having a foothold in that zone, a country can run or a region can run into serious energy crisis. So the US, if you look at all these 6 GCC countries, the US has bases in those areas. Why would US be spending money having military bases in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, and others? It's just to have a foothold to serve as a deterrence to Iran, which originally and generically is a stronger power in terms of population, instead of arms, instead of history of military expeditions. So the US is like providing a buffer to the GCC countries, the Arabia countries there, but in the actual sense, it is to secure their economic energy security in that region so that they can have a seamless supply of oil resources from that place. Now, because they are having it, Iran feels that this is my zone. Why are we not dominating and dictating what happens, especially from the energy point of view in this zone? Especially considering the fact that we have more military strengths. Russia controls the entire Eastern Bloc. US controls the Western Bloc. China is controlling the Asian Bloc. Why are we, the Iranians, not controlling the GCC bloc? This is the question. And what is the essence of controlling? To determine the economic, who gets what and when. And if a nation has that capacity to do that, everything is always done to their economic advantage. So this is the issue. This is the war. It has nothing to do with security. US is known to always put what we get the world afraid forward. They always do that. When they say, oh, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, at the end of it, did you see any weapon of mass destruction? What of Libya? So I feel that all those talk, they are all, but the Iran themselves, they are not happy matters. If you have been told to forfeit nuclear program because you are, as you were described, a rogue state, what is difficult in saying, okay, we let it go? Anything concerning, you have enough crude oil, you have enough hydrocarbons to take care of whatever energy security you are talking for. If it doesn't let nuclear go, let it go, so that we can now see what American, you will see, you will inadvertently naked Americans' lies. That is all because of security. But these guys refuse to. They want to have nuclear program. They also have to become a nuclear power to be able to serve as deterrence and the domineering force in that geopolitical zone. I think that is what the problem is. It's not security per se. It has to do with economic interest, fulcrumed on energy security. That is exactly what it is.
All right, now, Engineer Lukman, no doubt we're going to be domesticating this issue to Nigeria. I mean, see how it concerns us. I mean, at the moment, we're talking about the price of fuel and all that. Now, we want you to tell us, what do you make of the body language of global organizations, maybe the United Nations? I mean, the perceived inability for the United Nations to actually step in at this time. I mean, a few days the war started, we saw the Security Council. Iran is not a member of the Security Council of the United Nations, except America. America is a member of the Security Council. But the inability of the Security Council of the United Nations to maybe call U.S. to order, except maybe figures like, what's his name, Antonio Guterres, who has made a personal appeal to the U.S. authority to see how they can calm down on this war. The Security Council of the U.S., that organization within the United Nations, is not being able to call U.S. to order. What do you make of it?
Well, I will give you an example. For instance, Evans' family now, let's say Evans, this is the family of Evans, and Evans is the provider for everybody. He provides the food, the shelter, school fees, health for everybody, but it's called the family. And it is expected that anything that comes up, the family will meet and take a decision on who is right and who is wrong. But the reality is this: if Evans is the provider, is the breadwinner, or even the winner of tea in that family, you would find out that, one, if a meeting is called and you are not there, they have to wait till you are there. Decisions that will be taken in that family cannot hold unless they have the imprimatur. That is exactly what is going on. United Nations. What is United Nations? United States. Because when deterrence is to be served, everybody will look up to US. They are forthcoming. They have the economic resources. They can impose sanctions, and the economy of the country will go down. They have the military. military all over the world. The person who everybody runs to whenever there is crisis somewhere. When you hear, oh, United Nations is going to intervene in this crisis, everybody, they are talking into the pockets of the US. So if now you are now the problem, who is Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General, going to report to go and deal with US? If at the end of the day they come out and say, oh, US, you are the one that is wrong. You are not supposed to invade Iran. Yes, so what? What next? What do you do? Who is the nation? If all the nations join together, can they match them? So invariably, it is just, I think United Nations is just a toothless bulldog. This war has actually exposed them that United Nations is nothing but United States.
Quite interesting. All right, now if you take a look at the reaction of Iran, because they said that Iran is going to react, they are going to push back or fight back by doing X, Y, Z. Yes, Kuwait has gotten a piece of the annoyance from Iran. Even Saudi Arabia also focusing on U.S. bases, talking about the embassy in various Gulf states. But we've not had the report of Iran launching an attack on any U.S. base in Turkey. Does it mean that Iran is scared of Turkey, or they have this mutual agreement?
Turkey is one of the world powers. I think it will be foolish of Iran to be aggressive towards Turkey in the situation they are. They are battling with two world powers, Israel and United States. So for them to make any attempt at striking Turkey, that would be too much of a risk for them. That's one. Then the attack on Kuwait, on Saudi Arabia and all that, I think, to me, I think is out of cowardice. Is out of cowardice because these countries were not aggressive. Even when United States requested for their bases in this country to be used, they declined. They asked Kuwait, Qatar, so that they can use their base, their military base in Doha. They declined. The same thing with KSA, which is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Oman. All of those bases they have around there, they declined because they envisage that this is what Iran is going to do. But unfortunately, without such aggressions from these countries, they feel that the only way they can get back at US is to fight those countries that US seems to be protecting. But for me, in war, that is out of cowardice. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. All right, so Engineer Lukman, and no doubt you are an oil and gas supply chain expert. I mean, let us begin to domesticate the implication of this war. Nigeria is having its fair share. Just a couple of days, the prices of, fuel, surrounding products are going up. Yesterday in Benin, the price of fuel is almost 1,000 naira. Even this morning, almost 1,000 naira. Now, Nigerians are kind of at sea. They are lost. Nigeria is an oil-producing nation. And no doubt that the price of oil, of crude, of Brent, crude oil has gone up. As we speak now, it's almost $100 per barrel. Now, why the federal government is kind of happy, because there's going to be big money for the nation, no doubt. But we find that the price of fuel is going up. So what is going on? Is it that, what is really going on? Help us explain the situation.
Now, the crude, the oil and gas supply chain is a global phenomenon. It's not a national or local issue. The oil industry is just like the stock market industry. It responds to political pressures because most of the dealings are done in what we call futures. Now, like the shocks in stock markets when the global world is being shaken is the same thing that happens to the oil prices. Especially now that it is not just futures, it is just not expected threats to crude oil supplies across the world. For instance, more than 40% of the crude oil supplies in the world passes through what we call the Strait of Hormuz, which is in Iran. And you understand that when this war started, Iran closed the place. That will create and exacerbate logistic costs because most shipping lines would not want to release their ships to be within the danger zone where a strike can just destroy their investment and all that. In fact, even the insurance companies, the marine insurance companies that are insuring all these vessels all over the seas of the world must have given, they must have declared what we call a force majeure, telling those ships to not move to certain zones, that they are not going to cover their insurance if they go to social places. Now, what does that, what is the implication of that? There is always this mistake about the price of fuel always being located around the price of crude oil. The price of crude oil is just a component, though a good component of the final price of the refined products. The price of the refined products is determined by one, the price of crude, two, the logistical cost, which has to do with marine costs, shipping costs, and all that. The insurance costs, because there is no oil products on the sea that is not insured by big insurance companies. We also have the cost of funds, the money used to buy these products on the ship. They come at a premium, at a cost. Then we also have what we call cross-country costs. Those are the costs within the shipping ports of all nations. So anything that escalates any of these costs is an escalator to the final price of the products. So this war has definitely created one, and the illusionary cost, which we call the cost of expectations, where people feel, oh, by the time I exhaust the stock in my refinery, by the time I go to buy the next stock, my insurance costs would have been exacerbated, my logistic costs, and even the price of crude. So if I have, for instance, 2 million barrels in my stock, in my storage facility in my refinery, and those barrels, I bought them for instance, $80 per barrel. And I know in my presence, things are escalating. And if I have to go and buy another barrel, it will go to 120. You don't expect me to sell the final products of this crude oil at a price that when I put the money together, I will not be able to get the 2 million barrels. So that will definitely exacerbate the correct price in what we call expected. That is what we call price of expectations. Now, even the crude, if it's a chicken and egg situation, when you buy your crude, when you sell your crude, don't forget that the other products you are going to acquire with this foreign exchange, their prices are not also static. They are also dependent on the shocks that are introduced by this war. So it is a situation of you gain, you lose. But the ability of the economists or some people like us to be able to strike a balance between what you are gaining and what you are losing, our research over the years shows that most often you gain nothing. Because if you earn as a salary earner, you earn 100,000 naira, and you buy a bag of rice for 40,000, and your salary is increased to 150, and the bag of rice is now 80,000. In the actual sense, you have gained nothing. In fact, if care is not taken, you've even lost. So this is the situation we have in the oil industry. Nigeria can be jumping, happy that the crude oil price has gone up. But after selling the crude, what are the actual economic value of what the extra dollars you've now earned? What is the actual economic value in terms of your purchasing power from the same global industry? Those are the things you should be looking at. Then, but in our case, we have spaces. We have a lot of spaces for change. We have a lot of spaces for maneuvering so that we minimize the final impact of this global oil crisis on Nigerians. But unfortunately, some of these things are not being considered by our leaders. People just wake up in the morning, whatever they see, they do, they don't plan. This war in Iran has been on the table for a long time. A reasonable country would have been planning for it. Many European countries, we studied the supply chains of a lot of European countries. We understand how their level of preparedness on war has been. Are you understanding? So, but unfortunately, we are in a country where.
All right, Engineer Lukman, we quickly take this break now. It's expedient that we must take this break now, and we'll be right back. Please stay tuned. All right, thank you so much. The program's still on your television, Independent TV. And our guest this morning is Engineer Lukman Akemuke, an oil and gas supply chain expert. We are analyzing the domestic implications of the Iran-US war. Now, Engineer Lukman, please, can you continue? Because you were trying to establish the fact that this war that we're currently experiencing now is not something that probably started yesterday. I mean, it's been on. Most nations of the world actually prepared. But here we are for a country like Nigeria. You were trying to establish the fact also that our leaders probably did not prepare for this, and here we are now. So can you continue with that point?
Yes, I make that proposition that our leaders did not prepare for this crisis, even though the ominous signs were there for a very long time, because for every crisis in the oil and gas supply chain industry, there are what we call spaces for mitigations. We have spaces for mitigation. Those spaces there are short terms, there are mid terms, there are long term spaces, which a country, a leadership of a country can easily seize to mitigate the impact of the global expected or envisaged global war on its citizens. Let me give you an instance. If we expected 6 months ago that we are going to go into this crisis and we don't want the Nigerians to be subjected to the vagaries of the shocks, of the global shocks in the global supply chain. We have a Dangote refinery in this country. The quick wins, the quick space that could be explored is to quickly, the Ministry of Petroleum will quickly go into a meeting with Dangote. Say, okay, look, this Iran-Israel-American war, these are the things we are expecting. We expect that it can go bad. And if it goes bad, we don't want Nigerians to bear the brunt of the global impacts. Okay. What is the quantity of crude we are giving you now? Oh, we are giving you 500,000 barrels per day. Okay. What is the quantity you actually need? Oh, okay. We are going to give you the full quantity that you need, the 650,000 barrel installed capacity. We are going to give it to you in Naira, not in dollars. Because you are now, yes, you are forfeiting some foreign exchange for the benefits of your country. Now, if we give you this crude oil here in Naira, the logistic chain of your importation of the difference that you have been importing, the logistic cost is out. So you can no longer say, oh, shipping cost of the 1 million barrels of crude I'm bringing from the US, from Saudi Arabia, is the price has increased. No. So we are giving it to you from Nigeria to Nigeria here. Okay, that's fine. Two, the global the shocks, which has to do with value of currency fluctuations, is already out because we are giving it to you in Naira. These are our expectations for Nigeria. We don't want the pump price of fuel to exceed the current price you are selling at 845 Naira. The Dangote group will look at the offer, do their calculations, and they will even see that they might even gain extra Nairas or kobos with that arrangement. That arrangement will run through. If after a year or two, the envisaged or expected crisis did not come, there is a room for review to say, oh, Dangote, we are losing a lot of foreign exchange by selling this thing to you in Naira, but I think we are going to drop. Now, please also check other avenues that you have been importing. So we are going to cut it down from the 650,000 barrels a day we were giving you to so manageable level. This is a short space for mitigation. Then there is the mid space for mitigation, which is how many refineries, modular refineries, are already on that have been completed or near completion in this country. You call the CEOs. We have a lot of them. We have one in Edo. We have one that is in Delta, owned by the same people who owns the one in Edo. It's an Esa man, it's an Edo person. The one in Delta State in Cocoa is almost done. The one in here, what are the issues? The one in Delta State, there's another one in Delta State owned by an Edo son, Quebec Refinery. We have one in Bayelsa. We have some of these modular refineries across board that are having logistics or whatever is supply issues with crude. So the mid-term space for change will now be activated. Okay, you bring the CEO of this company, why are you not producing? Or why are you producing below capacity installation? What do we do as a government? How do we come in? Those people will tell you their challenges. If there are certain logistic costs, supply costs that are being hampered, you decouple them and ensure that these people get their crude as at when due and they produce. That's the midterm. Then the long term is entry. That is getting new people to enter. For instance, for some time now, the Bua refinery in Akwa Ibom has been muted. I don't know the level they have gone now. The last time I went there was sometimes last year. And apart from the civil engineering works that are doing there, and when I made some inquiries, there are a lot of issues, approval issues within the system that is limiting its rates of operations. There is another refinery in Ogun State that is coming up by the Chinese group. What are we doing? Then there are many people who have refinery licenses that are not able to even start at all. So what the government needs to do as a long-term space for mitigation is to call these people and look at what we call the entry cost. Entry cost of any project is quite expensive. Ask what are those entry costs is. You lower them. For instance, there are some approval money you need to pay, maybe $3 million on code. How do you are not going to waive the money for them. You can't convert that money as your equity. You understand what I'm saying? If you know that somebody does not have $20 million to pay for a refinery license to even start, but you want to encourage new entrants, you lower the bar. Oh yes, you may not pay the entry, but you may not pay the entry $20 million. Now the entry $20 million will be the federal government's equity share in your company. So you go and start. So you have removed the entry barrier into that. So when you have more of these companies that are producing, in elementary economics, the higher the supply, the lower the demand, because we don't have to leave the lower the price. We don't have to leave the entire supply chain of petroleum refinery in one company, Dangote. But in doing that, you cannot shut down or short-circuit it by regulations. It's a matter of encouraging new entrants to come in and also encouraging those who are already in to complete their refineries and ensure that supply hitches of crude oil to them are de-escalated. So if we have all these things happening, more refineries will be working, more products will be available, and that will help to absorb these shocks that are coming from as a result of the war at the global space. These are the things that we have been advising, but the governments do not. We write all these things all the time. We send memos to NNPC. We send to the Ministry of Petroleum to tell them these are these. You need to de-escalate the shocks that can happen to this country whenever there is a global issue. But a lot of these things are gathering dust in the shelves. And look at where we are. We are just starting the war. The American thought it is going to be 1 week, 2 weeks war. No, it's going to be a protracted war. Iranians are very stubborn. And when it becomes protracted, we don't even know what the consequence will be. You can see most of the global oil insurance companies are already declaring force majeure that they are not going to. But you can see the hit jack reaction that Donald Trump is giving. Oh, I'm going to clear the entire Strait of Hormuz. He's directing the insurance company to cover every. But how long will that happen? It's going to, the American economy cannot bear those kind of costs. So when it reaches the breaking point now, what happens is that it will be left for market forces. A few shipping lines will be on the sea. The few ones that are there who are ready to take the risk, we bring out astronomical cost of shipping. And all these costs, the insurance company will find it very risky to insure any ship carrying oil from one country to the other. And when the risk is high in insurance, the premium is so much high. All these things will conspire to be as exacerbation of cost, which will be passed to the final consumer. So what is happening in Nigeria today that you are seeing is expected. It's just that as at the time we were expecting it, some of us were making these prescriptions to our government, but ours is a type of government that do not. I belong to a global supply chain professionals group, which is the global body that monitors the entire global oil energy supply chain. I have my colleagues in Europe, I have my colleagues in Asian country, and we compare notes in our groups. And you can see that the whole of this oil crisis will happen now, and there are countries that even if the price is going to escalate, it's going to be very marginal.
All right, thank you, Engineer Lukman, because you've spoken at length. I hope you're listening, because you talked about going to Aliko Dangote because of the refinery. Let's, go down memory lane. Right, as it stands right now, the federal government and, of course, Dangote Refinery, they have this park that is going to be sold to them in Naira. That has been on. And only has distorted that particular arrangement. That is on one hand. On the second hand, we do not, according to what we have right now, need to pay for this kind of importation or transition insurance because the oil here is in Nigeria. Now, putting these two factors together, are we supposed to be purchasing fuel for close to 1,000 naira per liter, knowing fully well that we have the refinery in Nigeria, we have the crude in Nigeria, and of course we are giving Dangote Refinery crude oil in Naira, not dollars?
From the last information I have, Dangote Refinery, let Nigerians know it today, so that we'll not be swimming on half information or half truths. The crude oil that is given to Dangote is around 1.5 million barrels monthly, not day. So when you split that, in fact, Nigeria's crude does not account for up to 40% of Dangote's crude consumption. Most of its crude is imported. Let us know that. Then secondly, in the refining industry, it is not just only crude that a refiner refines. There is what we call blending, where you buy intermediate products from other climes and bring it and blend it. Before I delve into the supply chain aspect of the oil industry, I'm a chemical engineer, so I am a refiner. So I know the economics of refining. So what is there is that the Dangote refinery, number one, let us disabuse our minds. Nigeria is not giving Dangote all the crude. They are not giving up more than 40% of the crude requirement of that refinery. 60-something% of it is still being imported. That means that component is subject to the global supply chain shocks that is precipitated by this war. There too, if you look at the cost components of a refined product, crude is though an essential part of it, but there are so many ancillary costs that conspire to deliver the final price to the consumer. For instance, the operational cost. The operational cost of refining a barrel of crude is more than the cost of buying it. That is one. Those operational costs, one, the cost of labor, two, insurance costs, three, I can tell you that more than 70% of the technical staff of Dangote refineries, they are not Nigerians. They brought them in. Then we also have, there are other auxiliary raw materials that are used at the level of reflux drums and FCC unit, which is the fluid catalytic cracking unit. So all these costs are not denominated in naira. They are all imported. All these chemicals are imported. Spare parts, consumables, they are all imported. So all these components of the entire cost of this refined product are all subject to the external global supply chain cost. So that statement of the crude is produced in Nigeria is given to Dangote in naira, no, that's not completely true. Yes, there is an aspect, there's a quantity given to Dangote in naira. In fact, Dangote even buy more of, even there are some components of the crude he buys from the oil major, even at a premium. $15 to $18 extra barrel from the international market price that he buys from the oil majors. And let me also let the country know, when we say Nigeria has crude, Nigeria produced 2.5 million barrels of crude. What is the quantity of the Nigeria share in it? Have you studied the PSC, the production sharing contracts? The oil majors who invested their money, who have the technical know-how, who exploit, produce this crude oil, brought the ships that is loaded on, compared to the Nigeria. What is the Nigeria's component of it? Most of this crude is not sold and money is shared. They take their crude. And some of them, like Shell, Chevron, they have their refineries abroad who are even funding their operations. This is the intrigues of the global oil supply chain. If, for instance, Shell is producing 500,000 barrels per day in Nigeria, okay, it has a production sharing contract with NNPC through NAPIMS. Okay, now that production sharing contract, perhaps they take 60% of every crude that is produced. The other 40% is given to Nigeria. Then the production sharing contract also gives them a right of first refusal to take the crude and sell and remit the balance money which is accruable to Nigeria to certain designated account, mostly JP Morgan Chase in the United States. Now, this Shell that is producing this crude is being funded not from Nigeria. Their funds come from abroad. And most often, the financial model for funding oil operations is not give me cash, I'll go and do it. A particular refinery that Shell may be supplying in Europe may have made their bank to advance the loans, the operational loans to Shell. And if that oil is produced, with the proviso that the oil produced will be used to pay them. So if that oil is produced, how is it available for the federal government to just take and give to Dangote? That is a crisis. Then there's another component of it. Previous administrations have even taken a lot of loans against this crude. I don't want to go into details for political and security matters, but I can tell you that the previous administration of Buhari has already pre-sold a lot of our crude oil to some of these refineries in exchange for loans. So it is not as easy as we are producing 2 million barrels, give everything to Dangote, Dangote will refine. No, it doesn't work that way. The financial engineering component of the oil and gas supply chain is so intricate and so involved and entrenched that even the country has less. But the one I'm asking them to do is that the component you have, if it is 40% that you're having, you can prioritize the welfare of Nigerians by giving more to Dangote and removing that component. Okay, if we are giving you 300,000 barrels per day, that entire 300,000 barrels per day will be used and sold to Nigeria at social cost. That is what in model, it is the Abu Dhabi model. When I was in Abu Dhabi National Oil Corporation, we worked on a model called contract manufacturing, where a refinery owned by Tenzaku in Aruwais in Abu Dhabi, the oil that is produced by the UAE government is like taking there to refine. When they refine it at a cost, they pay the refinery at an amount, so that when the product comes out, it is stored in a floating storages, which is used to ensure energy security of the UAE citizens. Nigeria can explore that contract manufacturing model, where, okay, Dangote, you have a refinery, let's work out something with you. We'll be bringing social quantity to refine. How much do we pay you per liter of refined? So that you can have your country immune from these global shocks. So we have all these models, but unfortunately, I don't know what's wrong with this country. Some of our brains have been used elsewhere. I'm in a group where we are called to prefer solutions, write papers for certain things. I will set these papers out and get paid. We are ready to give this knowledge to our country free of charge, but no, you write it there and you just keep it. So this
Engineer, okay, first and foremost, as we continue, I really want to thank you because you have made some very revealing information, I should say, concerning our discussion this morning. But let me take you on the standpoint where you said that Dangote is not getting the required amounts of crude oil, from the federal government, that it still has to depend on importation, so that he can meet the required amounts of crude that he needs for his refining. Now, two questions. The first one is, why, as part of your short-term mitigation effort that you were trying to explain a while ago, don't you think that at this time now, rather than still trying to insist on exporting crude, I mean, I'm talking to the federal government now, rather than still trying to export crude, because the price of crude is high now, why don't the Nigerian government now try to increase the amount of crude that they give to Dangote, so that Dangote can help to ameliorate the price of fear? Because, I mean, if Dangote imports crude for his refinery, for his refining, no doubt it's going to increase the price of pump price, because it is what he buys at, that's also what he's going to sell at. So don't you think that as part of your short-term mitigation efforts by the federal government, don't you think the federal government should increase the amount of crude that they give to Dangote at this time?
In fact, you have just answered that problem. That's a solution to it. In fact, that's a very viable such-term solution to the issue. If the quantity of crude available to Dangote is increased now, especially denominated in Naira, I'm 100% sure that Dangote will be happy to make sure that the escalation does not reach Nigeria. I can tell you that. I agree with you completely.
More questions also to borders on other refining, efforts by other refining companies that you also talked about, because Nigerians are used to Dangote refining company. As a matter of fact, I don't think if there's any other company that Nigeria knows. You talked about those ones, pockets of modular refineries in Delta states, parts of Edo states and all that. Now, as part of mitigating the effort too, and as part of your short-term, suggestions that you were trying to make, don't you think that the federal government also needs to look into all these other modular refineries now? I mean, let's go away with trying to export crude outside the country. Let's focus more because Nigerians cannot afford to pay 1,000 naira for the price of PMS, because that is going to snowball into other aspects. I mean, all these whole things are connected. Before you know it now, goods and services, the price of goods and services we increase. Transportation will increase, and other aspects of our lives we increase. Engineer Akemuke.
Look, there are, like I told you, there are spaces for mitigation. There are so many. It's just a matter of getting the industry experts to think outside the box. Let me give you an instance, like the one I suggested earlier, which you re-emphasize now, which is that of encouraging the other refineries to be optimal in their production or go into production. A lot of them have been finished, but they cannot produce as a result of the dynamics of supplying problems of crude and some other approvals, environmental impacts. There are so many things that are done that have to do with bureaucracies, which the government with a political will can decouple and de-escalate and ensure that these problems are resolved for them. Now, there is another way we call the back end through what we call improvement and optimization of the energy mix. That back end is what is actually exacerbating the demand of petroleum products in Nigeria. What is that issue? I can tell you, my brother, it is not the cars alone. A good amount of this diesel and petrol are used for our generators. Why have we not been able to fix our electricity problem? I can tell you for sure that if the electricity problem of this country is fixed, the demand for petroleum products, especially diesel and petrol, will drop drastically. And you also know once demand drops, it affects the price too. Now, what are the quick wins? How do we ensure that we have energy stability outside the use of hydrocarbons, which is fraught with pollution, noise, and everything that is disturbing our neighborhood? There are so many energy ideas that are coming up now. We have seen the conversion of generators and even our cars to CNGs. Those CNG initiatives, where did we drop it? Where did we go wrong? Why are we not improving and increasing the use of CNG, which is cheaper and cleaner? What happens to it? Then the second one is the other energy mixes like solar. You can see many people now are going into solar, but because it's expensive, the entry cost of putting solar energy, especially for industrial use, is quite expensive. The government should go into it. Why are solar batteries still expensive in Nigeria, where the raw material, lithium, is being exported from Nigeria? Why are we exporting raw lithium and not processing and making it available in the country? If every household in Nigeria uses, just for domestic consumption, uses a solar energy, I can tell you for sure, the price, the demand for petroleum products will drop drastically and the price will also drop. If every small businesses, barber salons, a lot of market, you imagine installing solar energy supply in urban markets, in New Benin markets. Those generator fumes, do you know the quantity of petrol that those women use every day? It can be encouraged. What are those things that the government can do that will make new entrants that want to invest in provision of solar energy. For instance, the energy sector has been decentralized now. Any state can create their own electricity market and encourage investors to invest in them. It's not necessary that one person must buy his own. If you want to have produce solar energy and sell to Agwabasimi Street, for instance, you go to Edo State Electricity Regulatory Commission, you are given the required license, you have a place where you put your solar farm and you distribute and make your money. That all the big generators and small generators that will be consuming and putting pressure on fuel demand in this country will also drop. So these are spaces. These are spaces for change. These are spaces for mitigation that our country is not encouraging. The worst hit, the worst culprit of this matter are the state governors. What are they doing now that the electricity bill has been signed? Everybody was saying, oh, it was on the exclusive list. Oh, Tinubu has done well by signing that bill. What is happening? The humongous amount of money that they are now receiving as a result of removal of subsidy. Why are they not investing in energy security in their various domains? Why are we always looking at a problem from one perspective? If every governor, since they have been receiving this huge amount of money, have created electricity markets in their domain, take the lead, bring out some incentives.
All right, Engineer, I'm afraid we may have to end the discussion this morning because we're getting signals from Lagos Center that they are ready for their show. But I really want to say a very big thank you, for joining the program this morning. I mean, you explain most of the things that a lot of Nigerians want to know, because a lot of persons, they really don't understand this dynamics.
Because I was like, thinking that Dangote said from 774 to 874, that would have at least allowed some marketers to have pity on Nigerians. Yeah. Since they're going to increase just by 100 naira, why would you go sell your product for 950, 970, even $1,000?
Yes, as part of the short-term mitigation effort that Engineer Kamuke talked about, the federal government has to increase the crude that they give to Dangote Refinery so that they can in turn increase the amount of fuel that they give to Nigerians on a daily basis. Engineer Lukman, we want to say a very big thank you, for joining the program this morning. Engineer Lukman Kamuke, oil and gas supply chain expert. Engineer, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Edward. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to Lagos now, where Ms. Selina and Patricia are waiting. Pretty ladies, a very good morning to you.
It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. Good morning and welcome to TMI, the Consideration on News and Current Affairs program. From our Lagos Network studio. I am Marcelina Unkwa. And I guess this beautiful morning that will be helping us talking about today's topic is Dr. Victor Ohai. He is a UN humanitarian ambassador. Hello, Doctor. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Not bad at all.
Okay, today we're still going to be talking about the Middle East crisis. Tension in the Middle East have drastically intensified following coordinated military strike involving Israel and the United States targeting Iran. For a couple of days now, we've been seeing what has been happening, the strike that even led to the killing of the supreme leader, Ayatollah, and his daughter, son-in-law, and his grandson. And of course, a lot of persons also, died during the strike. And I come across a video of Donald Trump yesterday where he was saying that, they were negotiating with Iran. Israel and the U.S. were negotiating with Iran, and they got to find out that if they don't strike first, according to Donald Trump, that Iran was going to strike, and he didn't want that to happen. That was the reason why he took the first strike. So, Dr. Victor, you're a UN humanitarian ambassador, so let's get your take on this whole Middle East crisis that have been happening a couple of days.
We'll start with the last statement you made about what Trump said. It's the word of the living against the dead. in the manner of speaking, okay, where he said if they had not struck, the Iranians would have struck first. But be that as it may, on a lighter note. Iran, let me give you a typical example of why this strike perhaps had to take place. Not justifiable for whatever reason. You notice that Pyongyang, I'm talking about North Korea, in fact, I think they're even more advanced in terms of their enrichment and in terms of their nuclear possibilities, and even Iran. And yet, they have not been struck. But Iran, well, we've seen what has happened in recent times, and it's ongoing. The difference is that Iran has been threatening the U.S. and threatening U.S. interests. Pyongyang is just there. I'm talking about North Korea. They have it. They are not friends with anybody, or maybe just with Russia and a few other, and China. But they are not going about threatening the U.S. You remember that Trump even visited him during his first tenure. Probably the only American president to have done that in a very long while, if any other one has even visited at all. So North Korea is not going about threatening America. They're not going about threatening the rest of the world. Of course, they pose an existential threat to their neighbors, South Korea and all that. But as we say in Pidgin, they did their day. You understand what I'm saying? So, but Iran has been sponsoring terrorism across the world. They've been sponsoring, a lot of groups, Hezbollah in Lebanon and so many other groups in Africa, in the Middle East and all that. And if you notice, with what has just happened, two enemies or two not very friendly neighbors in the GCC came together against Iran. Two unlikely people in the region, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Normally they don't see eye to eye, but they collaborated against Iran, So what does that tell you? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It matters like this. So it just tells you a kind of threat that Iran has posed to its neighbors and to and people in the Middle East. And so it seems like one evil that needed to be exorcised or removed. Now, if you notice, even in Nigeria, they are the ones that are the supporters of this group in Kaduna. When you find, I forgot the point I was even trying to make with them, but finance a lot of. They share, Nigeria maybe also, they share this in Nigeria. El-Rufai had a running battle with them when he was in government. They are all Muslims, but it doesn't mean they agree. And that's what you find, that's the kind of rivalry or contentions that you find. Okay,
before we talk about Ayatollah, do you see like a third world war? Because some persons are saying that, will this lead to a third world war?
If this is not third world war, I don't know what is third world war. Because already the world is involved. How do I mean? The whole of the GCC countries are involved already. Europe Europe is already in the war. America is in the war. Israel is in the war. Is that not a world war? It's just Africans that are just watching them for now. But they are beginning, little by little, they are beginning to take sides. The war is not on the African continent. That's why it's not. Even the other world wars were not on the African continent. But Africans were involved because then we were colonies. And so they recruited us to go and fight their dirty war, But right now, whether we like it or not, a third world war has started. How long it will last, we don't know. Like I would usually say, you may know the beginning of a thing, you don't know how it will end. China is already talking. Russia is neutral. They have enough battle on their hands. I don't think Russia wants to get drawn into this. There's enough in their backyard. If they get distracted and enter this war, Ukraine will finish off, part of Russia. And I don't think Russia is ready to lose the battle with Ukraine. So Russia's hands are full. But China is already talking there. But China can only talk. If they attempt to do anything, it might create problems. So there's the balance of power is being shifted right now globally. America is coming back as a force that it is. You know, there's a global realignment right now, and the way they are going, at the end of the day, China may be the loser because America is asserting itself in a very dominant and strong way. And money, military might, and media are the three major things that any world power would have at its disposal. America has plenty of media, they have enough money, and they have the military might.
Okay, let's talk about the supreme leader that was killed. If you go to the news, or rather the internet, you see that a lot of Iranians, they've been celebrating, you know, the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and some persons also are sad about it. I mean, we saw a video of the broadcaster or the presenter, the TV presenter that came out to broadcast the news of his death. It was actually crying, and we're seeing a couple of videos of persons that are sad, and a lot of Iranians, we're seeing that they're happy. And also we saw the protests in Nigeria, I mean in the north, they came out to protest, you know, about the killing of Khamenei. They're actually not happy about it. And the fact that a lot of persons are happy, especially Iranians, they're happy that this man is dead, you know, got me thinking. What is your take on that?
If that presenter didn't cry, her family would probably be crying. Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I didn't see it. So if he didn't cry, his family would probably be crying, because at that time the supreme leader had been killed, but his successor was named immediately, although that was also killed almost shortly after. You know, because they live the way they are. It's like what's happening in Pyongyang also. That loyalty, you have to show that you know, they have been brainwashed to the point where if they, you know, they almost worship.
ITV.
ITV, certainly the best.
Many thanks as we apologize the technique still on CMI's beautiful morning. And of course, we still have our guest here, Dr. Victor Ohai. Dr. Victor, so we're talking about Ayatollah, the supreme leader, you know, that was killed, and a lot of persons were actually celebrating. They were happy that he was killed, and some were crying. I mean, I had a guess that even the devil still has people that likes him. So imagine, those, of course, those people that are crying, they love him so much. And some persons that were celebrating, you know, they were happy that, I mean, they were happy for his death. So you're actually talking about that. Let's get to here.
Okay, so it's a mixed bag, really. In recent times, a lot of Iranians especially the women and the young people have been clamoring for a change. It's been has been like, and it's like nothing wrong with it, but truth in Iran. And the iron fist with which the regime, the IRGC has been ruling them has been, I mean, even the ordinary Iranians, and I've been to Tehran before, you know, I said a long time ago for, you know, so the ordinary Iranians are wonderful folks. Nice people, you meet them, talented people, great scientists and all that. But when the Islamic regime took over, it was a completely different thing altogether. So what has happened right now is that many from outside and from within have been clamoring for a change. What you see here is a result of the way the ordinary Iranians feel. Not all of them are happy with it. But like you know, every regime will have its supporters. There are people who will be benefiting from the government. People like that will not want any regime change. It's the same in Nigeria, it's the same everywhere else. If you're in power, you want continuity, so you will not want anything to change. But is that the case for majority Iranians? You see of them just again. Regime is being that finally they can get their freedom, you know, and that's what the situation is.
I mean, with some of the videos that I saw, you know, some persons were rejoicing, saying that it's like religion is being imposed or forced to them.
Yes.
Especially the ladies, you dare not expose your body and all of that. And I saw some videos.
It's not about, but just exposing your face alone. If you don't put on the
I saw after his death, and some ladies were, you know, removing their stuff, removing the hijab and all of it. It's just like freedom, and they were actually thanking Trump for everything, for the freedom and all of that.
That's what it is.
Interesting. So do you see this war escalating? Like,
I think I said so earlier on. I've always said that you may know the beginning of a thing, you never know the end of it. It's assuming new dimensions every day. When it started, we didn't know that. Look at what Iran has done. Iran cannot reach the U.S. from where it is, but it is bombing Qatar, bombing Saudi Arabia, bombing Bahrain. You know, so you can see what is happening. And then they are bombing, you know, U.S. Their bases around the CC countries, and they're also bombing friends and allies of the U.S. So they are dragging more people into the war. They don't want to go down alone. That's what we see happening, unfortunately. And because of that, anything, it can go as far as possible. We cannot tell how it's going to end.
We can't tell how it's going to end. Okay, at this point, Dr. Victor, are humanitarian corridors being respected? Do you think the corridors is being respected?
Well, this war is not going to be conventional. Why I say it's not going to be conventional is that the rules of engagement for wars, normally, you would expect them to be respected. But with this regime, the regime right now in whatever is left of it in Iran, in fact, if they had the nuclear head, which is what the preemptive strike that America has taken now to make sure that they don't get to that point where they can use it, if they had it, I promise you by now they would have used it. And they would have used it to destroy, if it's possible to destroy